Note-taking is a really popular subject. There are many different techniques of taking notes and many different people showcasing their notes online. Truthfully, what you see online doesn't have to be how you take notes. Note-taking is really a personal choice, and after watching this video, choose carefully based on your own preferences. First, I want to introduce a few note-taking methods, starting with the outline method. This method is really simple, and I might go as far as to say that it's the simplest. You just take bullet notes and indent the details. It's really that simple. It's good for organization junkies like me. However, you can't have it all as such a simple method. Its main problem is that you can't put connections between topics, which can become a major one when you're taking notes on a concept-heavy course. Enter the mind-mapping method. This method works best with concept-heavy courses, as I mentioned above. You start with the concept in the center and branch off with subtopics and details. This also works well with visual learners. You can add a touch of aesthetics if you wish, and a few diagrams to spice it up a little. The downside of this method is that you may run out of space. Next method is the Cornell Method. You've probably heard of this method. You have a narrow column on the left for the cue, a wider column for the notes, and a summary at the bottom, which is typically written after class. The cue column is where you put all your headings, key people, questions, etc. This can be helpful when you're studying. In the note-taking column, people will usually just take outline notes. In the summary column, you guessed it, write a summary. While this method might seem pretty useful in theory, it's actually really time-consuming, both before and during class. This method is best used to study outside of class. I will often recommend you to take outline notes in class, and then when reviewing, use the Cornell method to condense all your notes into one page. Last but not least are flow notes. The main idea behind flow notes is to maximize the active learning in the classroom. This method is tough to review later, so I recommend taking outline notes and using flow notes to study later. To take flow notes, you will just write down your notes similar to any note-taking method and use arrows to connect various concepts. Second, I want to talk about how to decide on what note-taking app you should use. I found that the following are essentials in any note-taking app: syncing, good text support, basic handwriting support, good organization, and simplicity. The first app I will recommend is Apple Notes. Bet you saw this one coming. Guess what? Apple Notes is absolutely free. And you know what's even better? It has nested folders. You will probably think that I'm a geek for freaking out about an app that has nested folders, but do you know how many note-taking apps that I've tried that don't have nested folders? Or they hide that feature under an expensive premium membership? Along with nested folders, it has basically all you would ask from a note-taking app, except for Markdown. However, I find that if you get used to the commands used by Apple Notes, it isn't that hard to format text. However, it only has apps on Apple devices, but you can still edit your notes on any device on iCloud.com. The second app I will recommend is Notability. It has pretty amazing handwriting settings and it's actually pretty remarkable text settings. The only downside is that it has no free version and the paid is not cheap. To be honest, the only reason I got Notability was because I had to use it for school. The third app I will recommend is Evernote. It's a pretty decent note-taking app and has plenty of good features. It's available in most places, but it's premium, which you pretty much need to get if you want to get the most value out of Evernote. It's pricey. It also doesn't have nested folders. That makes me sad. That aside, it's not that bad. The fourth app I will recommend is OneNote. OneNote is absolutely amazing. It has beautiful text settings, advanced handwriting setting, amazing features, but for one thing I have dropped it: the organization. OneNote behaves like a normal paper notebook. You can organize by notebook, section, and then note, and then that's it. You can't even reorder them manually. But if you're not me and don't have organization OCD or something, OneNote is a pretty sweet note-taking app. The fifth app I will recommend is Bear. It's actually Apple only and requires you to upgrade for cloud syncing. I made the fatal mistake of forgetting that, deleting the app thinking it would save my notes and then losing them all. Luckily, I have copies of all of them and I haven't lost any of them. Still, the lack of free syncs really bugs me. But otherwise, it's a really good note-taking app. It uses markdown editing, which will take a little while to get fluent with, but it only has 2 levels of tags. But overall, I definitely recommend you to give it a try. The next thing I want to discuss is the everlasting debate of digital or paper. Let me establish something with you right here and now. The answer depends on you. Make your decision off these pros and cons that I will show you, and rest assured it will be a good decision. For paper, the biggest benefit you can get from it is the fact that it forces you to handwrite and won't distract you. We all know that muscle memory and writing by hand is lots better for your retention. However, that only applies when notes are not reviewed. We all know the pull of distractions and the internet when you are on a device taking notes. So if they're too strong for you, be mindful of that fact when making your decision. For paper, the biggest negative effect is that it's not easy to edit and organize. I don't know about you, but I get really frustrated if a teacher brings up a topic in class, moves on to another, and then jumps back to the past topic, and I don't have any space under the previous heading to continue taking notes. That doesn't happen with a digital note-taking app, so I feel a lot better with digital. For digital, the biggest benefit is that you have cloud storage. I don't know how many times I was so scared that I had lost my notes or left them at school and had tests to revise for. With all my notes stored in iCloud, I no longer have to worry if my iPad gets blown up or something. Actually, no, I do have to worry about that. For digital, the biggest negative effect is that it might pull your attention away from the task at hand. We all know the danger of notifications and text messages, and nowhere are they stronger than when you're in the classroom listening to the dullest teacher on the planet talk about the most boring thing that there ever is, and for some reason or the other is required for you to get a degree, which is entirely unrelated to that subject. I actually can't relate because I'm not in college yet. In general, I'd recommend going digital if you have lots of notes, have to edit and go back often, prefer typing, don't get distracted, or have a good plan to refrain from distraction, or have terrible handwriting. I'd recommend old-fashioned paper and pencil if you have not a lot of notes, prefer handwriting, or a visual learner, can get distracted easily, or have concept-heavy courses. Next big topic I want to tackle is whether you should go for aesthetic or simple notes. I'm going to say this outright. It is not worth your time and effort. People often say that it motivates them to study, but is that really true? I'm skeptical about the aesthetics having a big, if any, impact on your motivation to study. If you're undecided, here's a few questions to ask yourself. 1. Does it really make me more motivated to study? Now, be honest here. I won't go as far to assume as that nobody gets more motivated to study from their notes. Personally, I do not at all. But I think the case for most people is that their motivation comes from a different source. Also, I would recommend not placing your motivation on such an unstable thing. Who knows, the next time you take notes, it might be so repulsive it repels you from studying. I'm just saying. So these are all the big topics I wanted to cover about note-taking. If you want me to cover any other topics or zoom in on particular parts of note-taking, you can leave a comment in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching. If you want to check out more of my work, you can check out my blog, which is linked in the description below. Also, if you want to see how I implement all these tips, tricks, and advice into my daily life, you can check out my vlog channel, which is also linked in the description below. Lastly, if you want to learn more about me, you can check out my personal website, which is also linked in the description below. As always, stay safe, stay healthy, and have a productive day. Bye!